biggest upsets or the biggest upset that we've seen so far in HGC. But I'm also pretty hyped to see what kind of team shows up when the Zealots go into the game today.
If the Zealots beat Fnatic today, I think that would overshadow Dignitas and Team Liquid no matter the
Yeah.
results. That would be absolutely bonkers to see. Can the Zealots do it? That's a big question mark. I think you and I were talking about this before this morning.
Yep.
This patch being similar to the MSB. Fnatic has it all figured out. They trained heavily. So it feels like the Zealots come in, they have to have something surprising, but can they even surprise Fnatic when they've been on this patch for so long?
It would be absolutely insane if they can take Fnatic down, because Fnatic just crowned themselves the champion, so they are by far the best team that we have in the current patch. And I feel it comes down a bit to us getting a bit of a benchmark for the Zealots here today to find out, okay, how good are they?
Yeah.
Was the victory that they had just a few days ago a bit of a fluke? Did they just have an on day, or can they actually push the limit a little bit and maybe corner Fnatic, take a game off or two? That would already be a huge success in my book, at least.
Yeah, a game or two would be great. No 5-level leads, things like that. Trying to figure out where they're at overall. Because again, the Playing Ducks, they were actually pretty solid yesterday against Strict Esports. Started out kind of rough, but they wound up getting the victory overall. But with the Zealots getting the 3-0, you can really tell the Zealots have came out to play. But let's go ahead and get it all done here. Fnatic and the Zealots facing off. Let's hear their thoughts.
For the teams that we're facing in the HGCU, I'm mostly looking forward to play Fnatic and Dignitas, since they're right now the best teams in Europe, also in the world, so it's really exciting to play against them in a serious match, not only in scrims.
So the minimum goal for us was to not get Crucible, because we went through this, and I think this phase is way more difficult to not get Crucible than the previous one. But our maximum goal, which we can accomplish, is definitely the top 4, and that's what we are aiming for.
I think we can even try to win Fnatic tomorrow, because we played way better than on Scrim, and I hope if we keep our momentum, we can win Fnatic.
You think
and
you can take on
also
the mid-season Brawl champions, Fnatic?
I think we can surprise them with something we have prepared.
All right. Well, I'm excited for the match then already. I want to see how it's pulled off there.
Go into another phase, and there's gonna be some new phases in the league as well. So I'm really excited for that, to see if that ups the level of HGC, because I really want the game to grow in terms of skill. So like when new teams come in and they pressure the HGC spots and so on, that puts a lot more pressure on the people in HGC to try be more professional and, you know, actually play the game more and actually try to evolve and so on. So I'm really happy for another phase, and we'll see how much that changes stuff. Yeah, I think Team Zealots have really proved themselves over quite some time that they are a team of the same level as you need to have in the HGC, because we've been scrimming them for quite some time and they have been pretty consistent, and they proved over several open divisions that they're actually really good. I would say our goals is to try win BlizzCon, of course. It's the biggest event of the year, and that should be the goal for everybody. But I think just getting to BlizzCon is the first goal of this year, so we're kind of taking it step by step.
We've been talking about the Zealots and how difficult it might be for them to take on Fnatic, but this is a team with experience. They've been around the block for a while here, and we also have really solid players. Shad in particular on Friday really stood out to me.
Yeah, Shad is fantastic on, especially even when we're looking at specialists on Abathar. He plays great Vikings as well. We saw him on the Tassadar making a lot of plays happen for his team, with Force Walls in particular, really isolating targets and helping them to get kills during these fights. So I'm looking forward to see what they can bring to the table now. Grand Paquette also for me is one of the best supports that we have in Europe.
Yeah.
And I feel in general in Europe, we are blessed with a lot of very good support players. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do in those games now as well.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I mean, yesterday, Nape in particular on that Ariel was just killing it with the Demon Strikes. So let's go ahead and get this started here. The Battleground, game number 1 of the Best of 5 series. Where are we going? It's going to be Infernal Shrines. Fnatic with the choice.
Fnatic with the first pick, heading into Infernal. I like it. Very team-oriented in terms of team fights. We have oftentimes still some side soak. But if you compare it to how Infernal Shrines was played as it entered the scene, then the Globals have seen a little bit of a lesser priority recently.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this one. There's a couple of strategies you can pull off at the beginning of the game. Can ignore Punisher, can ignore one of the early shrines and simply say you get value pushing structures. Depends a lot on when does your power spike come online. When can you actually team fight? When do you want to go in? So the draft is going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, about shrine control. I mean, we've seen more and more Diablo, especially after Breeze pulled it out, I think, in week 8 here on this battleground. So more Diablo in the mix, which is a good point as well. Breeze versus Mopsio. That matchup's going to be a bit of a difficult one. You have one of the best, if not the best tanks in the world right now with Breeze, facing off against Mopsio, who looked a little bit rough the other day, but still coming in with a couple of plays overall. His stitches look pretty solid.
Yeah, it definitely did. And they had a cool plan going into the first game there, or the first Infernal Shrines game that they had. So let's see if they can once again copy that. And of course, once again, our question here, we have big priority picks in HGC Europe right now with Genji, with Uther, the Abathur, the Anubarak. And Anubarak in this case already banned out early on by the Zealots. They don't want to fall into that trap with the team just driving the battle into their backline, cocooning one of the frontliners, and then getting a free shot at taking down the damage dealers.
And Keldor, before we get into super serious mode as we get into these matches, the lighting did change a little bit here for Infernal Shrines. Josh took the feedback from us and, of course, people at home, and the crew worked really hard, and they added a purple bar at the very top. This is beautiful.
It's a little bit more red. I like it. So
yeah, it's the Punisher, the Arcane Punisher that comes in and destroys. It's at the top because it's the best one, so.
Okay, symbolism. I like it.
I
It's
like
good.
it.
Yeah.
Nice. Good job, Josh. A+. All right, so straight into it here.
Okay, so we have Fnatic banning out Uther. We talked a lot about Uther as an enabler of very different team compositions. With Divine Shield and Divine Storm, you have great tools to either enable your own team or shut down plays of the opponent. And the Zealots react by taking Greymane as their first pick. And with that, they take one of the heroes that sees a huge priority on Infernal Shrines. Not only because he's just absolutely fantastic if you want to blow up a tank or jump into the backline, but you get so much value through the cocktail alone when you're trying to fight for the minions. We've seen that in a few games over the last 2 days, where even if you do not have the shrine control, you poking well with a cocktail can secure you so many minions that you might walk away with a Punisher without even entering the arena.
Yeah, and Greymane's one of those heroes that's kind of been floating around the second, third pick rotations, but with it being Infernal Shrines, you mentioned him going up for those reasons above. That and BOE are usually the two that you'll see some Greymane mix up, but there's also the element of Fnatic being so great at Greymane. They want to make sure to take it away. I like Zealots coming in here with a plan, playing towards the battleground, but also playing against their opponent.
Yeah, and Fnatic goes straight into Dehaka and Malfurion. So Malfurion is pretty fantastic on this map because the roots allow you to zone a lot around the shrine. So the target walks in, you place the root behind him, the rest of the team is walking into the trap, you isolate more or less that one hero and you try to take him down. You have, of course, also the Twilight Dream again, which is always a fantastic tool if pulled off properly. And on top of this, we have now the Dehaka for the side soak and all, of course, for the aggression towards the backliner.
And speaking about that Stitches back here for the Zealots. So also be picking up that Rhaegar. Rhaegar doing pretty well there with the Greymane, but also bringing in that wave clear. It looks like the Zealots want to make sure that they can match their opponents, Fnatic in particular, at controlling those waves if need be, and Rhaegar's great for that.
Not only Rhaegar, I actually find it really interesting that we see so much more Rhaegar from the newer teams and also from Trick Esports, another team that has a high priority on him. But with the Stitches, we can again see the slam build. Even with the level 16 talent, if it fits into the composition, saying, yes, we do not need the fishing hook, we don't need to go all in on the isolation attempts, we can simply play around the slam, get the extra damage in team fights, and also more pressure towards the objective so that we can kill a few more of these minions when we're fighting for the shrine.
That build is actually very impressive. I ran it the other day on this map, actually, in particular, and I couldn't believe how much poking is able to do. I was very similar to a Greymane, not as much in terms of power, but able to seal a few of those, come in there and soften them up. And with Greymane in particular, I would bring the slam down first, cocktail comes in afterwards, and it's easy clear.
Yeah, you have to be careful with sustainability because it's much easier for an opponent to take you down, so your position matters more. You can't just simply YOLO in and expect to live with him.
Sure.
But once that you position yourself properly and you get, for example, the Greymane synergy that you just mentioned, you can really just coordinate getting these waves and the minions.
And you have options. I mean, at 13, you can get Fleabag, and suddenly you get the cooldowns reduced, you can get the Devour, and you actually can be a little bit sustainable, too. So, Stitch is wonderful pickup on this battleground in particular. Now, going into the bans, Fnatic may have seen that Tassadar the other day, especially with the Greymane being on the field. They ban out the Tassadar here, and Shad will not be showing off those force walls.
Yeah, so no force walls for now, and also with what they have right now, Zealots Zealots could have said, hey, double support, we go into another carry here, run the Stitches solo. It's not really all that common anymore, but he could make that play. It's also enabling Greymane to go a bit deeper in these fights. But I think one of the major reasons is definitely the isolation through force walls that we have seen by the Zealots. And talking about the Zealots, they are banning the damage dealers and they do not want to deal with the Tigers for several reasons. First of all, the bigger they are is a great tool to chunk down Stitches. And another tool is also Odin, which is just amazing, either poking away at structures when you run with an Immortal, or simply securing the last few hits onto a shrine when you can from a safe distance use the spells to get the last few minions.
But does that Tychus ban possibly hurt the Zealots too? Fnatic has shown Diablo in the past here, and Tychus is one of those heroes that if Diablo doesn't get the engage he wants, Tychus can shred him down.
It's a good point. I think that might be one of the things that Fnatic could exploit now. But I believe that with the Tychus, they might also have the option to run that Stitches solo. They would have to adapt the build on him a bit, and it would require them to pick up a second support as well.
Sure.
But overall, I think they just want to take some pressure away from Opsio here.
All right, well, Fnatic thinking about their pickups here. Want that clear for the Shrines. Also want to grab a tank at some point here for Breeze. It's going to be the Genji and the Falstad for Fnatic.
So Falstad is a hero that has fallen off from in priority for most teams. Fnatic, one of the few that really plays him a lot, and that is because Falstad caters to their strength. They're incredibly strong coordinating globals, getting the globals into action, appearing on one side of the map, getting a quick kill and moving out. Falstad is great also for positioning purposes. With the Mighty Gust, you have a really good tool at your disposal, and they secured Genji. So there isn't as much dive on the side of the Zealots, which is one of the main reasons why Falstad actually fell off in priority, because you oftentimes have a Genji or a Nubarak on the opponent's side. The only real hero that they have to deal with now is Greymane, I want to say. So Fnatic is a little bit more secure in playing the Falstad, because they're saying, hey, we have removed most of the threats already, so we can play safely with him in the backline, and then he can engage whenever he needs to.
And now Zealots has to make a decision here. Do they want to have wave clear to try and match against a Hawk and Falstad that could be separated and pushing out those waves, or do they want to all in on the Shrine and try to control the objective? And it's going to be the global route here as they move into Illidan and Abathur for the 4th and 5th pickup.
Now that was the one thing I was a bit worried about when Falstad was picked, that Zealots would commit more heavily to the last remaining dive hero, and that's what they're doing. And they are going for the Abathur, which we typically don't see that often on Infernal Shrines anymore. So Zealots really trying to bring the team fight to Fnatic, which is pretty cool considering that Fnatic wants to out-macro them. With Illidan, you have a lot of pressure against structures, so even if Fnatic is getting the side soak, they have now a good tool where they can just say, okay, we push through structures and we just barrel down a lane. But Fnatic is reacting with Arthas, the hero that gives them more control over the shrines thanks to his AoE, and is also really good at controlling Illidan.
Yeah, Illidan and Greymane too, both of those. They charge in too heavily, they can get locked down. Rhaegar, if he goes for an inappropriate bite, moves in and get the wrong connection that he wants. Howling Blast will completely lock him down, and later on when you get Remorseless Winter, that Rhaegar is dead. So Arthas just a great pickup here for that final pickup for Breeze. So looking at the draft, we have Fnatic on the left side with a composition that they have excelled with multiple times in the past, but the Zealots, they're looking to bring the fight towards Fnatic, and I love this on game number 1.
Yeah, I like the aggressive stance that the Zealots are taking now. Basically saying, we are not afraid of Fnatic, we can force them into team fights and we can win them, especially with the Abathur composition. They have to be very, very careful at the early Punishers, though, because them fighting on the Punisher with an Abathur plus Illidan for the first shrine is going to be rough. So there's a good chance that they're going to let the first one go, since the worst case scenario for them would be you fight over the first Punisher, and all of a sudden you lose your Illidan, you lose 1-2 heroes, you have Abathur who can't really help you out too much, and your opponent gets a huge experience lead and can then, with a Punisher, barrel through the wall, maybe even get a fort, and all of a sudden you're so far behind that coming back online and getting back into the game is nearly impossible.
Yeah, their best early game strategy here, if they want to do anything, is to get a hook on the Malfurion, pull them in, blow him up, and then maybe they can contest shrines. But that is such an unlikely situation that I agree with Caldor here. The early game needs to be a bit more reserved from the Zealots, but once 10 hits, Ultimate Evolution coming off, Illidan, of course, Greymane can burst down a tanky fuse for Cursed Bullet. They can really start to fight. Let's go ahead and start it here. Infernal Shrines, game number 1 of this best of 5 series. The world champions taking on the newcomers here of the Zealots.
Game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, as we have Team Fnatic, the mid-season brawl champion, going up against the Zealots. To the left in blue, it's the Swedish boy band with Smexy on Malfurion, Wooby on the Haka, Breeze on the front line with Arthur's Genji, played by Shrimpy, and Quacknix is playing Falstad.
The Zealots on the right side here, 1-0 in the HGC, currently looking to gain more here. It's going to be Zarmany on the Illidan, Poik on Greymane, Grandpa on Rhaegar, Mopsio on Stitches, and Chad with the Abathur gameplay once again.
Especially with the Illidan composition, the Zealots have to be careful in the early Shrine phases. We've seen at the mid-season brawl a couple of teams with Illidan compositions commit too heavily early on onto a Shrine, losing a hero or two, and then the game snowballed against them. This is definitely a danger that the Zealots have to be aware of, and Fnatic is going to try and exploit the traditionally weaker early game of an Abathur composition.
We'll see if they can exploit that here, as 5 members of Fnatic are set up, but again, they can spread out really easily here. Grab Dahaka, throw him in the top lane, put Falstad in the other lane as well, but they're actually electing to put Dahaka and Falstad in the top. It seems Fnatic wants to slow down Illidan and Rhaegar in their push and try to maybe get some harassment there. That won't occur in the top lane, but the bottom lane will have the rotation between Arthas, Malfurion, and Genji.
Also, really noteworthy is that with 2 globals on the same lane, they can make a very, very swift rotation into one of the other lanes and force a fight there. So that is always a threat, and the Zealots need to be careful because of it. The top lane is pushing even more, but if there's an isolated hero on any of the other lanes, all of a sudden the Falstad can go for the fly-in, the Haka goes for the burrow, and then you see a dead hero on the side of the Zealots. So Zealots have a very aggressive draft, but they need to be very cautious here in the early game, especially against the globals.
So comes out. Shwimpy taking some damage there on the side. Rhaegar also biting back as the fight starts to break out, but the Zealots will live from there. And going back to your point here of having to be a bit careful, the Zealots seem to understand this. They've actually really kind of enforced a tag team system here, where they have Rhaegar and Illidan together at all times, it looks like, and then Stitches and Greymane were together during that bottom rotation, just to make sure they can help each other. Mopsio was playing safe in case he had to come in for a helping hand. I like the adjustment.
Yeah, I do so too. And the Zealots have said that they are not really afraid of Fnatic. They, of course, respect them as a strong team, but they said, hey, we believe that we have the confidence to go into these games and say we can at least pressure them. And they're going to try and do this in this first map. Zealots with a slight lead, inexperienced already. Illidan, on the other hand, falling, going down. And as expected, the Zealots not contesting the Shrine and instead trying to get value by taking down structures.
And they get 1 turret. However, losing Illidan's going to hurt. They might lose Grandpa here, too, as Rhaegar's getting low. Going to dodge out on the dive here, and he gets out just barely.
Yeah, Rhaegar barely escaping here. But what we're seeing here is exactly what we talked about during the draft and at the beginning of the game. The Zealots accept that early on they will have a rougher time team fighting, so they are willing to give up the first Punisher. They don't fight for the Shrine, and they say, guys, if we can't fight for it, what do? We go into the lane, we try to take a few structures down and gain experience, so that once Fnatic gets the Punisher and gets value through it, it will still be even experience. But Fnatic reacts. With the 2 globals, we're able to get the kill against Illidan and force them back during the push. Left only 1 here at the top, and now the Zealots are saying, well, they kind of have our number. Let's move top and see what we can do here.
Can they do much though? 25-10 at the moment in terms of control. Mopsio being locked down by Breeze. Lower and lower he goes, and Shwimpy comes in with a strike to take him out. Harmony will bounce back, but Fnatic easily picking up kills. Second one of the game.
Fnatic doing really well here. Having also the Haka at the bot lane, they are already ahead in experience. And I understand why the Zealots went top, but I would have preferred that they would have just split on the lanes and tried to say, okay, we can't really fight for this. Let's make sure we pressure a little bit more. At this point, though, Breeze taking the Punisher with his team. They are slightly ahead right now, and they will start to push through this one. This is one of the games where, in theory, you could even see Syndragosa being picked by Breeze later on. It's still a bit unlikely, but if Fnatic at some point says, hey, we are so far ahead and we have so much momentum, we have the way earlier level 10, let's go Syndragosa and really snowball this, that could be an option for them if they see an opportunity. If they want to go into a longer drawn-out game, then of course the army is the way more likely talent to take on level 10.
Bit of a risk, but we'll see if that comes here for Fnatic as 7 just hits for Zealots. Mexi continuing to lock down Mopsio, though, as he's having a really hard time in the Stitches. Getting locked down, Shwimpy on the right, Howling Blast comes out, and he's dodging, but it won't be enough here. as Mopsio will fall, and potentially the fort as well, as Fnatic is in a really good position here to continue to put damage on it.
Yeah, Fnatic is really exploiting the situation. They know that the opponent only has 4 health bars in these fights since Abathur doesn't have the copy yet. So they are trying to exploit the weak early game of Abathur. Wooby is just soaking the entire time. He has a bit of a rough matchup into the Illidan, but is doing very well with his mobility on the map and is just soaking the XP for his team. And up to the top lane, we're now seeing Fnatic taking the fort. And this is an entire level lead. After the first Punisher, Fnatic is doing exceptionally well here, and they will hit an easy 10 before the Zealots do.
And that's the problem. Hitting 10 right when the second shrine pops up, Zealots once again cannot come in and engage until they get 10 themselves. We'll see if they go for a different play here of maybe going for it forward or grabbing mercenaries, but their main goal is to get 10 themselves, as they are super behind at the moment. Gonna grab the Mercer on the bottom right side, and so far Fnatic is doing their own usage of trying to get the experience. They have Dahaka on the bottom, they're getting top lane pushed in as well with the Mercs here on the left, and Fnatic right now about to hit 10.
Yeah, and with that 10, they can force another battle once again. And we are not even talking about the Punisher yet. This is going to come later. They have one camp set up to the top, can easily be taken by Falstad or Dahaka later on. Shrine is activating as well, and here we have the level 10s now. Gust already being used, and so far, Arthas is holding his talent back. As we said earlier, if you feel you have an opportunity to completely snowball, you can go for Syndragosa here. If you want to force the team fights though, and you expect a longer drawn-out game, Army of the Dead is the better option. So Breeze is just waiting. He doesn't have to pick just yet, but he goes into the army, plays it safe for now.
Yeah, they give Dahaka the isolation here. He'll be the one that tries to make plays in the fights, hitting that Illidan or that Rhaegar in particular. Hook comes out from Mopsio, doesn't connect, and Zealots, you see them on the map here. They are just hugging this bottom lane, trying to move as a unit and not get caught out by Breeze.
And let's not forget one of the most important things here from a tactical perspective. Up to the top lane, Falstad is pushing with a camp.
Yeah.
That has to force a reaction out of the Zealots. They cannot simply sit there and say, yes, that's fine, because eventually this is going to pressure the keep. They attempt to get level 10 at the bot lane, and that's a smart choice, but we already see that there's more and more minions on the side of Fnatic. They're on 24, and they will, Zealots have to send someone back now to deal with Quacknix, and this is going to give Fnatic an easy second Punisher.
I mean, the other move they can do is force a fight and make Falstad come in,
Hunt.
or they just hunt on in. Quacknix taking damage, will drop the Mighty Gust, should be able to fly away.
Is able to fly out there, so he gets the gas, flies away, and joins the rest of the team. 32 stacks already. Nice poke against Breeze here, even using the Cursed Bullet to drop him a bit lower. But the Punisher is already here. Roots against Mopsio. Whoopi moving in, and Zealots, are they actually fighting against the Punisher here as well?
They're trying to. They're going to get hooked by Mopsio here coming in. It's going to get killed immediately, though. Fnatic is having none of it. They focus all targets onto Stitches, and he will be taken out.
Fnatic is just saying, it's nice that you had a good day against the Ducks on Friday, but now we are here and you have to deal with us. This is a different game, so get ready. And so far, the Zealots have just not been able to do that. I also want to point out that Rhaegar took Bloodlust. So they are really all in these team fights. They are saying, we can drive this. Once we gain the momentum, if we call a target, hit the Cursed Bullet, and then Illidan comes in with a hunt, we go straight for the Bloodlust, and we can make this work. But they still have to prove this, and it's going to be rough, since they are still behind in talent as Fnatic picks up level 13.
It's a really bold strategy against Mighty Gust in particular, running a Bloodlust composition. If they can get the pick on Falstad, though, I could see a world where they do charge forward and get the kill, but it is a risk. But the Zealots probably understanding, all right, we're against Fnatic. A risk is one of the only ways that we can earn a victory. Hook comes out. Falstad gets taken out with the damage here, but here comes the hunt. They're moving forward, and wow. Was there an Illidan on this comp or not? I missed it.
I'm not sure. I think they're playing it without Illidan today. So you see the problem right here. Illidan comes in, they basically call the target, Falstad hits the Gusto, and all of a sudden Illidan finds himself very much alone in a 5-man. And that was the demise of him. Quacknix, by the way, doing one of the things, I think by now he's intentionally trying to trigger me. He really loves on 13 to go into his cooldown reduction talent. And that is really surprising considering that they are up against Stitches and that he picked Season Marksman and also on level 4 right after that another auto attack talent with Hammer Gains. But Quacknix is one of the few Falstad players that even against a hit point heavy tank as Stitches at the front line with an auto attack build will still prefer Flow Rider over the Giant Killer. Most Pulsar players that you will see on this level are going Giant Killer and commit to the auto attack. Quacknick's the only one that I know that really is this heavily committed to the cooldown reduction.
I mean, it makes it work. Can't really hate on it too much, but still, the synergy doesn't seem to quite be there, but Fnatic still pulling off. Zealots, though, losing Illidan again.
It really works. Most of the time it works out for him, but he had a few games at the mid-season brawl where they had a lot of problems taking the frontliners down, and I think Giant Killer could have helped with it. But he's running with it, and they are the champions, so you can't argue with this. They are getting their results. And already, when we're talking about this, they picked up another 2 kills. They're just dominating this game right now. 8 kills against 0 and a 3-level lead. Fnatic proving here in the HGC Phase 2 why they are the mid-season champions.
Harmony hoping to fight Quack on the bottom. It was simply a bait as Breeze moves in. There's going to be a dive the last second as Schwimpy turns around for the attacks. But this is probably the last moment where the Zealots will have a chance to really shut down a fight. They need to get a kill here. Oh, do they get one here as they move in for Schwimpy? Reflect comes out, and there will be a takedown.
Schwimpy missed his D. He tried to go for the trade and jump over the wall, and instead of jumping over it, he jumped into it and had to run around it. So mistakes were made, and that causes his death here. And the Zealots, when they saw this, they were really happy. They said, okay, we got this. Whoopi the God. It's a 1 versus 4. He dodges the hook and nearly gets Grandpa Keta killed as he connects with the drag and pulls him into the towers.
I'll be showing off the skill there. Well, 10 seconds. Wild Coyote will be back here for that Genji that ran into a wall. He should be able to head back to the top lane, but it's 16-13. The Zealots working on a shrine, but look at Fnatic. Down here in the bottom right, they're moving in for a keep, and they are showing no signs of stopping.
Yes, and they will eventually succeed with this if they continue. That keep should fall. If they commit here, Illidan is still up at the top. But Breeze eats the cursed bullet. Gast and Army are being used. A little bit redundant there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're nitpicking, of course. Right now, they have a 2.5 level lead. They are dominating in kills. Illidan now falling up at the top. But in this case, the Gust or the Army, one of the two would have been enough. But Fnatic is doing everything they have to do here. We still have to wait to see that team fight. There's, on the other hand, Bloodlust being used. Can Mopsio connect with another hook? Cooldown is not ready yet. And that was a really big cooldown that Grandpa Keta just blew on his Rhaegar.
Yeah, Smexy just brought out a cleanse, and they just walked away from it easily, just like that.
I would have liked the Bloodlust to be used with the defense against the Punisher here. Maybe force a team fight after they're about to take it down. Gast is still down for a little bit longer, and I think they knew that. So now we have Fnatic moving in at that top lane, trying to get the kills here. 9 against 1, 17 versus 14 the levels as they move forward to take the first keep down. Mopsio gets cleansed, moves out, is so far still safe. The Punisher baited in, but Fnatic with the pressure.
Back with the pressure, moving towards the keep. It's already down to half health here. Punisher's about to rear up and jump once again. Wubby come on the right side. We'll drop the isolation straight on Illidan. Great shot there. Wubby, though, missing out on the drag. Hook comes in. Will hit Wubby. He gets out just in time, but Grandpa hoping to clear out this Punisher. And Zealots will finally do it, but they do lose a keep.
For a second, it looked like he hooked the Punisher as well. The Punisher jumps in as the hook connects. And yeah, Punisher helping out, of course, with that extra stun. The Zealots are waiting for level 16. They're really hoping to get the next talent before they have to fight. And then they will attempt to force a team fight with Bloodlust and attempt to just simply... They have to snowball the team fight after getting initial kill. So if they can curse bullet, hunt, get a target down, hit Bloodlust, and try to drive the fight, dodging somehow the false set Mighty Gust, maybe sniping him first, they could potentially start a comeback here, but it's going to be really rough since that engagement has to be absolutely on point for it to work.
That's a large bucket list. You just listed off there,
yeah,
Caldor.
It's a lot of ifs and wins.
Well, for now, they won't have a Stitches to help him out with that bucket list as he's going to fall down. Fnatic up here with 5, continuing to push in the middle. And remember, they opened up that bottom lane. Now, Shad did heal it up using Mule, so the keep is a little bit more healthy than before. But Fnatic, again, can move in at any point and force that keep.
I mean, you have to ask right now if Stitches was really the best choice they could have made if the idea was to go for Grey main Illidan. I'm really thinking that maybe a Tyrael with the help of Rhaegar and also Abathar could have been the better choice here. Going in with the Sanctification and really committing to the team fight. It feels as if Stitches just doesn't have the mobility they need to pull this off properly.
Yeah, usually you want to be able to pick somebody off, and while Curse Bullet gives you some burst, where's it at after that? It's not really available here. You want some kind of tank that can force a fight. Gosh, I know it's weird saying this, but even a Chen may have been better. Just fully dive all in, get in there, and try and force a fight. Zealots behind here. It's Fnatic works towards 20.
They are the ones that banned Anubarak.
Yeah.
Another point to make here. So yeah, Anubarak got banned, but then they committed heavily to the Grey main in early priority, so they didn't want Anubarak to be taken by Fnatic, which is very understandable. Just feels that Stitches doesn't really help their composition here unless they get one of these hooks connected, and so far it didn't look like it. The Earthgrass Totem on level 16, if a hook connects, is going to help massively though to lock down the target, so that's going to be a big one. Also, with Soma Transference on 13, Abathur gives a bit more sustainability to Illidan himself. But Fnatic is about to hit 20, and this is just fantastic. They're also with the 2 globals at the bot lane again, pressuring the keep. Forsen is now making his way up here. The level 20 talents have hit, so he has the epic mount, and this is Fnatic engaging. Gust already used, isolation and the kill against Greymane. Rega not even using his Bloodlust just yet. And Shrimpy goes in with the Dragon Blade and just destroys that backline.
Shrimpy just got ridiculous value on that Dragon Blade, just shredding 2 members at a time. They're still moving forward, and this is 4 people down for the Zealots. Fnatic moves to the core. 20, almost 30 seconds available for half these members to even come up, and that's going to be it here. Fnatic is going to grab the core and burn it down.
14 kills against 1. Fnatic with a 3-level lead, going for the core on Infernal Shrines and taking game number 1. The Zealots defeated on the first map, going up against the mid-season Brawl champion.
So many questions pop up for me here. Where are the Zealots actually in terms of rank, but where are the Playing Ducks after what happened Friday? Was Friday a fluke? Was the Zealots just on point? Was Playing Ducks a little bit off? Fnatic still coming in here and showing why, though, that they won the mid-season Brawl. Their coordination and their execution is just flawless when it seems like they need to be.
When we talked about Europe, there was always the stance that there is a gap between the top 3 and the 4th place, and that gap has slowly but steadily eroded. And now Team Liquid at the end of phase 2 looked a bit more vulnerable. But especially when we're talking about the top 2, Fnatic and Dignitas, everybody just keeps saying they are way ahead of everyone else. That sentiment has been echoed throughout every single interview that we had so far. The top 2, it's Fnatic and Dignitas. They currently play on a different level, and can we beat them? That's the question here. So I wouldn't put too much into that first game yet. I want to see what the Zealots can do on the upcoming maps. But we came into the series with the knowledge that this is going to be very, very rough compared to what they faced so far.
Yeah, Fnatic, the last couple of weeks have shown that their rotations have been the best in the world here in terms of moving in and getting kills. While Dignitas, their execution when they go for hook combinations have been on point. Now, just watching these teams is always being a treat, but I want to see the Zealots come in here and maybe get a victory on them. How amazing would it be for them if they can take a game on Fnatic? For them in confidence, too, going into week number 2. The Zealots, they definitely have it in them. Can they pull it off?
I think that the comp that the Zealots played here was a very aggressive comp, and you can argue it was a bit one-trick pony.
Sure.
You need to go into a team fight and with Bloodlust really start to snowball this. But Fnatic, when they picked up the Falstad, threw a bit of a wrench into the plans because they have the good disengage. And if you look at the game, Zealots had trouble dealing with the global. That was point number 1. Always Falstad in the Haka, pressuring the lane, going for a keep, and forcing the Zealots to back. And I think because of that, the Zealots never got the team fight they're looking for. So they never had this scenario where they could really go in with a Curse Bullet, follow it up with the Illidan, use the Hunt, and then when they're in the middle of your opponent, just drop the quick Bloodlust and carry the fight from there. So their comp just did completely not work out against what Fnatic did. Fnatic saw the composition, they immediately realized what could be happening here, played around it, and therefore the Zealots just didn't stand a chance.
I mean, never mind the Gust. Just going for Bloodlust alone when you're behind experience is a very difficult task to pull off. Let's go ahead and get ready for game number 2. Which battleground are we moving into? It's going to be Battlefield of Eternity, and